To build a multi-billion euro empire in a region left hollowed out by conflict, you don't need a corporate pedigree. You just need to conquer the geography. This is the Irish borderlands. Underneath this quiet turf lies one of the purest, most valuable deposits of limestone in Europe. In the borderlands of Cavan and Fermanagh, the legend says Sean Quinn started in 1973 with nothing but 100 borrowed pounds and a single gravel truck. The reality was a masterclass in hyper-aggressive scaling. Quinn relied on the raw wealth of his family farm, grinding down limestone into a massive cement empire. It was a fiercely guarded, family-run operation that formed the literal foundation of his peak €4.7 billion fortune, making him Ireland's richest man. But in 1992, the expanding edge of his Ballyconnell quarry ran straight into a relic of the ancient world, the Aughrim Wedge Tomb. Known locally as a fairy fort or the Giant's Grave, it was a 4,000-year-old prehistoric burial site. In rural Ireland, interfering with these sites is a deeply ingrained cultural taboo. Local whispers warned that disturbing the stones would invite a ruinous curse upon his house. Quinn obtained permission from the Office of Public Works, funded a full archaeological excavation, and had the ancient monument completely dismantled, stone by stone. He relocated the prehistoric tomb to the golf course of his luxury Sleeve Russell Hotel. To the public, it was progress. To the local community, it was an unsettling defiance of fate. Because the real curse waiting for Sean Quinn wasn't supernatural, it was systemic. At the exact height of his power, Quinn secretly moved his concrete wealth into a volatile financial instrument, using contracts for difference to stealthily buy up a 15% stake in Anglo Irish Bank, a position that would become catastrophic. It was a gamble that would ultimately destroy 5,000 regional jobs, trigger a historic €2.8 billion personal debt, and spark the single largest financial collapse in Irish history.
Corcan dŵb ag beriw gymal Tan ysgaelianfa a glachwr mynish Siysgo dorchyd as na awsian a ffada I ffosgeid na siancloch
In the summer of 1992, the expansion of the Ballyconnell quarry wasn't a matter of corporate greed, it was a matter of basic geometric math. To keep the kilns burning, the limestone had to come from somewhere. But the obstacle in Quinn's path wasn't just dirt. The Aughrim Wedge Tomb was an intact prehistoric burial site, containing human remains and ritual pottery spanning multiple generations. For 4,000 years, the landscape had adapted around these stones. Local farmers bypassed them. Roads curved to avoid them. The cultural barrier was absolute. To bypass the taboo, Quinn didn't use bulldozers. He used the law. Under the permission of the Office of Public Works, he funded a full archaeological rescue excavation led by professional field scientists. Every single megalithic slab was meticulously tagged, numbered, and lifted out of its ancient socket. The prehistoric remains were recovered, and the earth was completely flattened to expose the limestone bed beneath. The stones were transported down the road and reassembled like a jigsaw puzzle on the grounds of Quinn's newly opened 4-star luxury golf resort. This is where local folklore begins to bleed into documented history. In the years following the relocation of the tomb, a string of complex, localized crises began to hit the Quinn group. The official record shows a series of grueling operational setbacks, sudden, highly volatile cross-border regulatory battles, and unexpected legal friction over transport logistics. To the financial markets, these were standard corporate hurdles, the natural friction of managing a rapidly growing conglomerate across an international border. But on the quarry floor and in the surrounding towns, a completely different narrative took root. The community didn't see logistical friction, they saw a reckoning. The whispers in Cavan grew louder. You can move the stones, but you cannot escape the debt that comes with them. And as Quinn's focus shifted from physical stone to abstract financial markets, that debt was about to be called in. By October 2005, Sean Quinn had conquered the physical world. He owned the cement, the glass, the hotels, and the land. But wealth on that scale creates a unique kind of vulnerability: the need to put massive amounts of cash to work. Quinn found his target in Anglo Irish Bank, the aggressive, fast-growing darling of the Celtic Tiger economy. But instead of buying traditional shares, he chose a highly volatile financial weapon. He used contracts for difference, or CFDs. A CFD is a derivative, a side bet on a stock's price. You don't own the underlying share. You simply trade the difference in value between when you open the contract and when you close it. The appeal of a CFD is leverage. Quinn only had to put down a small fraction of the stock's actual cost as a margin payment, while gaining exposure to massive movements in price. There was another, darker incentive: anonymity. Under Irish financial regulations at the time, buying physical shares past a certain percentage required public disclosure. CFDs allowed Quinn to build a massive stake in secret. In 2007, Quinn privately disclosed his position to Anglo's CEO David Drum and chairman Sean Fitzpatrick. The bank was stunned to find a borderland billionaire holding their leash. Yet even after this warning shot, Quinn kept buying. Month after month, through brokers, he expanded his position. At its absolute peak, Quinn's hidden derivative position secretly represented more than 25% of the bank, an unsustainable exposure he would later try to unwind and convert into a disclosed 15% stake. Then came 2008. The global financial crisis crossed the Atlantic, and Anglo Irish Bank's real share price began a steady, terrifying descent. On March 17, 2008, the infamous St. Patrick's Day massacre, the stock plummeted. In a CFD, every cent the stock dropped meant an immediate emergency. The brokers issued margin calls, demanding massive instant infusions of cash to cover the gap. By July 2008, the pressure inside the Quinn Group had reached the structural breaking point. The falling stock price meant Quinn was burning through hundreds of millions of euros in cash just to feed the margin calls. But this wasn't just a Sean Quinn crisis anymore. It was a sovereign emergency. If Quinn defaulted, his brokers would be forced to dump his massive CFD position onto the open market all at once. Dumping a 25% stake would cause a total wipeout. Anglo Irish Bank would collapse instantly, potentially dragging the entire national economy down with it. Behind closed doors, Anglo's executives engineered an extraordinary high-stakes gamble to bypass traditional market rules. The plan became known in the financial press as the Maple 10, or the Golden Circle. The mechanics were highly unorthodox. Anglo selected 10 wealthy Irish developers who were top customers of the bank, and secretly provided them with 450 million euros in loans. The sole purpose of these loans was for them to buy up Quinn's toxic CFD shares. It was a circular loop of capital. The bank was effectively lending its own money to buy its own falling stock, an illegal share support scheme that violated Section 60 of the Companies Act by providing unlawful financial assistance. When the scheme eventually collapsed into a criminal courtroom, former chairman Sean Fitzpatrick was acquitted of all charges, while 2 Anglo directors, Pat Whalen and William McAteer, were convicted. Yet neither director spent a single day behind bars. The judges overseeing the convictions handed down community service rather than prison time, noting that Ireland's own financial regulator had been fully aware of the deal, giving a silent green light to the illegality instead of raising a red flag. The Maple 10 deal temporarily stanched the bleeding on paper, but the structural foundations were completely hollowed out. The gamble hadn't saved the empire. It had merely tied its fate directly to the impending collapse of the state. On April 14, 2011, the abstract financial numbers finally materialized into physical reality. Bank-appointed receivers, backed by high court orders, arrived to officially strip the Quinn family of their corporate crown jewels. For the people of Cavan and Fermanagh, this wasn't the execution of corporate law, it was a decapitation. Overnight, the man who had single-handedly built the local economy was stripped of his empire by a nationalized Dublin bank. The community's response was immediate and visceral. Thousands took to the streets in protest. To the local workforce, the new bank-appointed management weren't administrators. They were asset strippers sent to liquidate their future. As the legal battle dragged on, the resistance mutated from public demonstrations into a campaign of absolute local non-cooperation. The border topography, once Quinn's greatest logistical asset, became a wall against outsiders. The legal geography was a nightmare for Dublin. A single conveyor belt or delivery pipeline could start in the Republic of Ireland and end in Northern Ireland, requiring separate warrants, international police coordination, and infinite red tape. Soon the hostility turned destructive. Unmarked delivery trucks were intercepted, access roads were mysteriously blocked by heavy machinery, and reports of deliberate sabotage began to emerge from the sprawling industrial sites. In the local pubs and factories, the folklore returned with a vengeance. The community didn't blame the economic downturn or the toxic derivative bets. They looked back to 1992, back to the displaced stones of the Aughrim Tomb. The narrative in the borderlands was simple, dark, and absolute. Sean Quinn hadn't just gone bankrupt. He had crossed a boundary that no amount of leverage could ever fix, and the land itself was reclaiming what it was owed. Today, the industrial heart of the borderlands still beats. The trucks roll out, the cement mixers spin, and the glass factories run around the clock. But the name Quinn has been scrubbed from every facade, rebranded under new corporate ownership as Manok. To the financial world, the story of Sean Quinn is a textbook taste of hubris, a cautionary tale of over-leverage, hidden derivatives, and a billionaire who bet his entire empire on a failing bank and lost. But out here where the concrete meets the mountain, a different consensus remains locked in place. The people who watch the empire rise and fall don't look at the balance sheets to understand the collapse. They look at the soil. They remember 1992. They remember the ancient stones of the Aughrim Wedge Tomb being pulled apart by heavy machinery to clear a path for corporate expansion. In the modern world, we believe we can build over anything if the capital is large enough. But the borderlands leave us with a colder reality. Some boundaries are not legal or financial. They are absolute. And sometimes the cost of clearing the ground is everything you own.